The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
This is potentially the most interesting time of year for the official NASCAR series on iRacing. With the real-life National Touring Series in their off-seasons, iRacing schedule builders get the chance to be a little bit creative. The trucks are going to Hickory and Mosport, the Xfinity cars are going to Spa and Monza, and the Cup Series has been on a legacy tour lately, starting at the legacy scan of Kentucky Speedway a couple weeks ago, and now we're taking on the bumpier, older scan of the Michigan International Speedway. Like David Byrne said, we're hitting all the bumpity bumps, feeling it go thumpity thump, tapping on the window outside, and we're now going to go for a ride. Welcome to round 2 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series in 2023, live from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, circa 2009. Hi everybody, Joey Tebben here alongside Taylor Burris with our producer Hugo Luis behind the scenes. Taylor, welcome back to the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Welcome to 2023, and welcome to virtual Michigan circa about 13 years ago.
I still feel it in my back a little bit after taking all those bumps earlier in the week. It is definitely a track that you do not really want to mess with, because this track, if you're not careful, can definitely chew you up and spit you out if you're not careful. But still, a very high-speed, high-flying, high-excitement racetrack when you see these NASCAR next-gen cars go out on the track.
It is quite frightening when you are out there, because I did an official race myself for once. I know that's shocking. I actually did some iRacing this week, but it is quite a challenge, and the bumps really do catch you out. You think it's going to be a lot faster than it is, and this is just part of the tour we're on in this schedule. As I hinted in the intro, it's an interesting first half of the season here on the 2023 Season 1 schedule. We start with 2 legacy tracks, the legacy scan of Kentucky and the legacy scan of Michigan. Then we go to not necessarily a legacy scan, but a legacy track, certainly, Rockingham. Then Darlington, as if Rockingham wasn't tough enough. We go to Darlington after it. Then the older scan of Atlanta. Then Iowa Speedway ends our tour of sorts. Then the Daytona Road Course. And then we start to get into the real NASCAR Cup Series calendar, lining up with their start of the season at Daytona in round 8. And then Auto Club and Las Vegas, which will be our championship finale here. It's a tale of 2 seasons, Taylor. A lot of older tracks, a lot of tracks we're not normally used to, and a lot of classic tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see who can take on both styles of racing. Right now, after one race, I guess no real surprise, the 2022 Cup Series playoff champion Abner Acosta up top over Josh Conker and Richard Regan Jr. Chris Hudson, James O'Brien, Eric Papineau, and Josh Daniels bring us down to the top 7. Last season's champion in just season 4, Trent Dinkle, is down in 8th after a disappointing result for him a couple of weeks ago in round 1. Waldo Walden and Brandon Walter round out the top 10 in the Cup Series standings for the moment. But remember, that is after only one race. We did kick off the season in the final weeks of 2023, or 2022 rather, just to get one race out of the way before the long holiday break, and now we're ready to be back in action. But before we can go any further, before we can take you into qualifying, we have to thank all the people who make all of this possible. The VCO, first and foremost, the virtual competition organization, helps us out here at RaceSpotTV and helps make every single Precision Racing League broadcast possible this season and every season. This coverage is also brought to you in part by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. Then from Racebox, we slide over to RaceLab. RaceLab apps helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. This coverage is brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. And new for this season, of course, it's Mecha Sim Hardware. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And last but not least, as always, it's Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Of course you are. Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. As always, for the first time in 2023, it's time to start tracking the PRL NASCAR Cup Series drivers' performance. We're still waiting for practice to come to an end here. A couple dying laps for some of our drivers, trying to get a little bit of extra pack running in before we do get into qualifying, before we do get into the race. Just trying to figure out, where do you want to be? I don't think you want to be where, I think that's James O'Brien in the background is. That's a little bit too close to the wall.
It's a little bit too close to the wall, and especially this track here, with how the track is set up and how these cars drive, you really got to be careful with your corner exit. It's very easy to get that outside wall, snatch you around here, especially off turn 2, where you have to be careful with your throttle input. We're going to see a lot of drivers for the early stages of the race running against that white line on the bottom of the racetrack, but as the run progresses and people feel a little more confident, they may go up to that middle groove as the run progresses later on, and then when you get into turn 3 and 4, a little bit different handling. The car wants to get a little bit loose from you compared to being tight in turn 1 and 2, so you got to be careful with that, as now practice has come to a conclusion.
Qualifying will tick over here in one moment. I do need to update all of you on the team's championship standings as well. We didn't see them in the pre-race, but private label Team Hype, I suppose, is no surprise. They are at the top of the sheets right now. Their lead driver for the moment, Abner Acosta, won the last race, and they lead the championship over Love Racing, who's tied with the secondary private label Team Hype squad, the private label Team Hype Black team, Dirty South Racing right behind, and then a trio of SGE sports teams with Pioneer, Overdrive, and Slipstream all stepping over each other there in 5th, 6th, and 7th. Then it's Aero Kinetics in P8, YS Motorsports Yellow, a little bit lower than they would like right now in P9, and then there's the 4th member of the SGE Esports Armada, the Apex team, down in P10. Charles Sumner here in the Tropicana Orange entry, ever familiar. He's out on track. Looks like one of the first drivers who's actually elected to come out on track, and he's one of the few drivers who's actually submitted his headshot. Good to see your face, Charles.
Certainly have had the pleasure of talking to Charles just before the start of the 2023 calendar year with a couple of things, along with Jerome, which are the two main officials when it comes to the PRL series in its entirety. And they've been having a lot of good things happening with the entire PRL family with all their major series. And of course, a big talking point, I have to say, besides the return of the Cup Series, is the brand new Xfinity Series that joins the PRL family for the oval side in 2023 there, Joey.
Of course, me and Terry Radford on Wednesday nights is not just the Truck Series anymore. The Truck Series was the mainstay on Wednesday nights for so long, and that still exists, but it's sort of become an undercard series of sorts. The drivers who want to get their feet wet in oval racing for the first time in the PRL, they'll take on the Truck Series, and then all of the famous faces from Wednesday night, your Bradley Hollies, your Acostas, your Regans, your Dinkles, they've moved up to the Xfinity series on Wednesday nights, which acts as our sort of pro series on Wednesday nights. It is an absolutely stacked field of drivers, and they always put on a phenomenal show, and coincidentally, they put on a phenomenal show here at Legacy, Michigan on Wednesday night, and they went caution-free for 50 minutes. I don't know if that bodes anything for tonight, but we know it is possible to go caution-free at Michigan in the PRL. Chris Hudson currently on pole for the moment over Taylor Stout. Charles Sumner's first lap, probably disappointing for him, all the way down in a 40.6. We'll see if he can improve it all on the second lap as times are all flowing in. James O'Brien goes up to pole. Here comes Charles Sumner to the line.
Coming across the line, he will move up as he crosses Sumner to P10. Actually make it now P11 as more cars come across the line, but it's now Richard Reagan Jr. at the top of the leaderboard with a 39.124 as the field work their way around the circuit. And if I remember correctly, this is the first time we should be seeing open setups for these drivers. We talked about it a little bit in Kentucky. So this will provide some great action here for the see how well these drivers have worked hard over the offseason to get ready for this race.
Robert Besaw Jr. for SGE Sports. I assume that basically everybody in the SGE Sports camp is probably sharing a pretty similar setup here, so I imagine he'll end up somewhere close to his other teammates. It's a 39.5 for Robert Besaw Jr. on that first lap. He's probably going to be disappointed with that, but it is still just the first lap, so we'll see if he can improve it all on the second time around. Joe Hoggard here in the number 64. Always a quick driver at tracks like this, at the super speedways especially, but at these fast flowing 2-mile plus tracks here, Auto Club, Pocono, Joe Hoggard's always good at the big tracks.
He certainly is. He definitely puts on an astounding drive no matter what. We're going to be excited to see what he can accomplish as he comes down across the start-finish line, and he's looking to be tracking in a decent time, 39.869. That's going to move him to 30th for his first lap, I believe. He's still got one more shot as we see Mike Witt coming across the line to see how he will pick up a little bit. 39.02. 39.36 has it officially, so moving him to P12 in that number 26 Chevrolet.
I think there's some Mike Witt fans at home that really got their hopes up there with a 39.0, but still, P12, that is nothing to shake a Mike Witt at. He's going to be pretty happy with P12 starting spot. He's not going to make it around for lap number 2, so he's going to elect to park it here, and it looks like that is just about everybody. Nobody else out on track is going to be able to complete a lap, I don't think. There are a few drivers who were disallowed from qualifying due to being a little bit naughty last time out at Kentucky. Skip Gandy, Trent Dinkle, Jose Medina, and Matthew Long were all disallowed from qualifying after being determined to have brought out the caution at Kentucky last time out, so they don't get to qualify here. And Aaron Beaver as well. He was allowed to qualify, but for one reason or another, the number 97 is not taken to the track in qualifying, so he'll start back there with Dinkle and Long and Jose Medina. But qualifying has come to an end, and who else could be on pole but the driver who became the winningest driver in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series last season? It's Richard Reagan Jr. in that number 56. We'll start from pole here at Michigan alongside James O'Brien, who won the season finale last season as well. Chris Hudson in the Krispy Kreme entry starts P3 next to his old buddy Josh Daniels. They always seem to find each other on track. Jeff Chandler, a newer name for this season, starts P5 alongside last round's winner, Mr. Abner Acosta. Taylor Stout starts P7 alongside Lou Christian. And then Pat Harvey and Adam Zemke round out the top 10. Clayton Ham leads the YS Motorsports contingent alongside Mike Witt. And unlucky 13th went to Brett Punkari here in the Cup Series this season after challenging in the GT4s last season. He starts alongside Matthew R.D. Campbell, coming off a performance in the Majors 12 Hours of Le Mans yesterday, so he's not tired of racing at all. Robert Besaw Jr. is behind him, next to Waldo Walden. Mark Kalin in the very familiar highlighter yellow this season, alongside Roy Grande for Aerokinetics. Then Scotty Johnson starts alongside Charles Sumner. Brandon Walter for private label Team Hype Black is 21st alongside Eric Papineau. Stephen Hassett and Byron Johnson round out the top 24. Johan Seminario starts alongside Joao Guerra on row 13. Jordan Slater and Robert Gamble, two more Aerokinetics drivers, are behind them. Ken Olland and Richard Pruitt round out the top 30, but the hits keep on coming because Joe Hoggard and Byron McDonald are on row 16. Tom Amasi was the last driver to get a qualifying lap in, and those aforementioned drivers were not allowed to qualify. Matthew Long, Trent Dinkle, and Jose Medina were all naughty last week, so they got to start from the back of the grid. And Aaron Beaver has just elected to start from the back of the grid. Maybe he thinks there's going to be a little bit of drama, a little bit of chaos on lap 1, and and he wants to stay out of it from the back of the grid. We'll see if that pays off for him. 99 degrees here in Brooklyn, Michigan at the moment. Not the hottest track in the world, but also not especially cool. And at a high-speed track like this, you tend to shred the tires as the temperature goes up.
You certainly do. So strategy with the pit calls are going to come into play big time. 110 laps here around Michigan International Speedway for these drivers, as we'll see that temperature continue to rise a little bit as it's still working their way just a little bit past 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock here before we get ready to get started with action here today at Michigan International Speedway. We're going to see a lot of different strategies. We're going to see a lot of different lane choices when the race starts getting into the longer green flag runs, if that happens here tonight.
Crawling through 1 and 2 for the first time here. I am still thinking back to Wednesday night with the Xfinity series, because that was sort of our preview to this race. A lot of similar drivers. Richard Regan Jr., our pole sitter here, unfortunately couldn't make it on Wednesday night. He's had a new commitment on Wednesday night, so he's likely not going to be able to fight for that championship after all, unfortunately, but he will be here on Sunday nights. He does have a free day here, and this is his chance to kind of redeem himself against the rest of the field. James O'Brien, who starts to his outside, didn't have the best day in the Xfinity series. He was not especially fast. He actually had a run-in with Colton Lane, if I remember correctly, but clearly the next-gen car, at least in qualifying, is suiting him a little bit more.
Certainly is going to be the case here as we ride on board with Benny, the pace car driver, as he sees all of these thundering stock cars about to do battle here for the second race of the season. A lot of things can happen here in this second race of the championship. As we know, there's 4 different championships up for grabs here throughout the entire season, plus the regular season championship and also the playoffs, which is going to be exciting to see all season long.
The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off for the first and potentially only time tonight. Richard Regan Jr. in the number 56 takes control of the field. The green flag is out at Michigan, and for the first time in 2023, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series is green. Pole sitter does not lead lap 1. James O'Brien sweeps around the outside, takes the lead, leads lap number 1. Josh Daniels in another red entry, trying to do the same thing to Richard Regan Jr., trying to make that outside work. Doesn't work for Daniels, though. Regan's able to slot back in second in line as Abner Acosta challenges Chris Hudson for 4th.
Chris Hudson is already trying to get his way down to the inside as they work their way down the back straightaway, heading off into turn 3 and 4. Acosta, though, really taking care of his equipment as they work their way through really great racing action here, 2 by 2, as they try to sort themselves out of turn 4.
And as quickly as James O'Brien took the lead, as quickly as he's lost it, Richard Regan Jr. takes the lead back on lap number 3. A little bit of a peak. Are we going to go 3 wide into turn 1? No, we're not. But Chris Hudson, Chandler, Acosta, Lou Christian as well, and Clayton Ham. It almost looks like a pace lap here. They're 2 by 2 by 2. So they just barely get it resolved here. Chandler noses ahead of Abner Acosta. They're still side by side with Clayton Ham and Lou Christian, though, coming into turn 3.
Really great battle for that 5th position here as you watch the 21 of Luke Christians having a really strong run. We saw a lot of potential from him in 2022, and I think he learned to step it up here for 2023 to continue on with his performance as he stays tucked up behind the defending series champion in 2022 of Abner Acosta to try and chase down your race leaders. But one thing we got to keep in mind for Acosta is he's known to save tires. Will he be doing that here as we ride on board with Luke Christians?
And for the first time in 2023, it is the 4th member of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series broadcast team. It's the world's shortest staircase behind Luke Christian. What a pleasure to see the world's shortest staircase here again. And what a pleasure to see Lou Christian as a whole. In all seriousness, we love the world's shortest staircase. We always love seeing his face cam, but he's a driver that has just been getting better and better and better over the seasons. 2 seasons ago, season 3 in 2023, or 2022 rather, I think that was the first time we saw him in the PRL. He was around, he was decent, he was picking up a couple of top 10s. Then in season 4 in 2022, he really turned things up. He was fighting with the Acostas and Dinkles and Regans of the world. And now, first season of 2023, maybe this is the season when Lou Christian finally gets his first win.
Certainly is the case here, and that might be the opportunity for him as he sits in P7, and great opportunity for him to learn as we see him just dive it down just above that seam right there, stays tucked up behind Abner Acosta, gets a little push from Taylor Stout as well as the 7 machine of Clayton Ham as we watch now Mike Witt guide to the inside of Pat Harvey for 10th.
Mike Witt making some progress in the world here. Also an update on Brett Pancari. I complimented him on his great qualifying. Unfortunately, he had some trouble on the opening laps. He's fallen all the way down to 36th at the back of the pack. And Jose the Funky Cold Medina, who was disallowed from qualifying, he elected to start from the pits after all, and he is just kind of riding around at the back of the pack. But we have an absolute hornet's nest here in the middle of the field from Abner Acosta, basically all the way back to Johan Seminario, Brandon Walter, Mark Kalin, Mike Witt, Eric Papineau. You're seeing every lane in Michigan being used right now.
We certainly are, as you're right on board with Mark Kalin in the 12th position. He'll now look to the inside. Contact is made. Hold on to her, Mark, as he goes through the grass, lawnmowering it here. And as he tries to get back on the track, he will fall back outside the top 20. But a great save as Mike Witt made contact with him on the front stretch.
And we talked about the Mark Kalin season last season, how he couldn't catch a break in anything he drove in Cup, in trucks, in the MX-5s, in the GT3s. He was hoping that 2023 would be a fresh start for him. It has not been very fresh so far, though. I don't think that was much of his fault. We'll have to check a replay there to see who really merged into who there, but once again, Mark Kalin running into bad luck.
Break indeed for Mark Kalin as we see him continue on his way. But he will have fallen quite a ways back outside of the top 20. He has a lot of work to do, but it's early on. He can still make a nice recovery as he tries to chase his way up to the field.
Still over 200 miles of racing to go. Of course, a 2-mile D-shaped oval here in Michigan. About 100 laps left. There is quite a lot of racing left for Mark Kalin here as he races with the 2 Aerokinetics drivers of Robert Gamble, and Roy Grande. But here is what happened to Mark Kalin. And yeah, I don't think there was anything Mark Kalin really could have done there. Mike Witt just kept coming and coming and coming, and eventually there was a Mark Kalin there.
There certainly was. And how about the save that he was able to pull off to rejoin the track as well? That 62 machine in 29th for the time being.
I don't know if it's too mean to say he's probably used to getting hit by other people and having to save it, but maybe he was using his experience there. And he is zipping through the field now. He got by the 2 Aerokinetics drivers, or he got by one of them. He got by Robert Besaw Jr. as well. Now him and Robert Gamble are trying to fight their way forward through the field. And we've got a tongue twister on our hands right here because side by side, it's who else but Campbell and Gamble and Kalin. Campbell, Gamble, blah, 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 blah. I can't say that too many times.
All right, you got to untie your tongue here in a minute, buddy. We got to keep on going.
There's too many miles left. I think I'm just going to call him Robert and Matthew. I think that'll be the easier way to do that. And ahead of these 3, by the way, is also Trent Dinkle in the familiar blue number 9 for private label Team Hype. He started at the back, disallowed from qualifying. He's actually disallowed from qualifying for 2 weeks, so he won't be allowed to qualify at Rockingham next week either. But he is making up for lost time here. He's making progress, and now he makes the move on Ken Olland for P24. Next up on his list is Charles Sumner, and next up on his list is that cloud of cars right ahead of him.
It's going to be exciting to see how this works as he takes a moment to take a sip of water and now sets his sights to work his way into the top 20. Got a lot of work to do, but definitely he has the skills to do it as he sends it in to hunt down the Tropicana machine of Charles Sumner.
A few cars ahead is also Matthew Long. Remember, he was disallowed from qualifying as well, so there's a couple of buddies back here. They know they're in the same place. They know they're on the same mission. Trent Dinkle and Matthew Long. They're just going to scythe through the field together. Dinkel does get by Charles Sumner. Sumner doesn't put up too much of a fight, somewhat understandably. I think he knows the pace difference right about now. Next up will be Joao Guerra in that number 51. Tune back in a little bit further up front, or rather all the way up front, to Richard Regan Jr., who still leads, but he hasn't been able to pull away from James O'Brien or Josh Daniels or Hudson or Chandler for that matter. It's a 5-car breakaway up front, and it's a little bit of a train at that.
Certainly is a little bit of a train. So these drivers here, as we watch O'Brien and Richard Reagan Jr. O'Brien, of course, a former series champion as well to the PRL Cup Series, hasn't quite really had a whole lot of success in victory lane for the past couple seasons. Looking to see if he can try to find his way back up through the field.
James O'Brien tied with Bradley Holly as the championship winningest driver in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Both of them have 5. O'Brien, maybe he's thinking that 2023 is the year that he finally beats Brad. Maybe this is the year where he does get that elusive number 6 and jumps over everybody. He's certainly off to a good start. Week 1 was decent for him in the top 5. Week 2, there's still about 200 miles left, but he's running well. He won the last race of 2023 Season 4. The momentum's certainly there for James O'Brien if he does want to get back on top, but there is quite a long season to go, so we'll see if he can keep that up as 2 of the YS Motorsports entries very, very close together here. Eric Papineau in the background as well, 3 wide with Mike Witt and Adam Zemke. It's almost impossible to pick out who you want to see here because it is just a hornet's nest of cars, and it's constant action as there's a little bit of a squeeze between Hoggard and Zemke.
It really is, as we watch them work their way through the middle of turns 1 and 2 as they come up. There you see Hoggard get a little bit too close for comfort for the wall, but as that managed to stay on, and then as they work down the back straightaway, you see one of the other HPM Motorsports machines really trying to stay tucked up, I believe, as we look at the timing and scoring. That's Stephen Hassett in that 91 machine.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Stephen Hassett has gone for an interesting paint scheme this season. You know, there's a lot of red and black cars on the grid here. It's sometimes difficult to differentiate between O'Brien and Daniels and a few others, but Stephen Hassett has put that beautiful highlighter green on, and you're never going to miss that car.
Not only that, it's also got a different manufacturer on the nose of that machine as well, I noticed.
Side by side with Mr. Matthew Long. Fittingly, another black and red car, but Hassett's holding him off. He sends it into the corner behind his teammate Hoggard. You're seeing 2 different styles of attacking the corner here, I think, between Hassett and Hoggard. Hassett's charging it on the entry. Hoggard's getting better exits. And behind both of them, there's 2 drivers that are likely going to be far stronger on tires for the moment. Trent Dinkel is blowing by Matthew Long, and he's going to be to the rear bumper of Stephen Hassett in about 2 seconds.
He certainly is, and it starts to try to drop the hammer to work his way up through the field. He's now into the top 20 in just under 20 laps, so really a lot of speed is left in that number 9 machine as he works down the back straightaway to the inside of that 29 or that 28 machine of Matthew Long. He tries to keep pace, sends it in quite a little bit deeper, but still Long is going to hold on to the outside lane.
Trent Dinkel finished 3rd here on Wednesday night in the Xfinity cars, so clearly a strong driver here at Michigan. And as we learned last season and the season before, Trent Dinkel has become a tire wizard in and of himself. As the teammate to Abner Acosta, he was kind of the tire apprentice for a while, and then he went out and beat Abner Acosta at some of the best tracks for Abner in terms of tire saving, like the Charlotte Roval. And Trent Dinkel truly became a tire wizard, a tire master of his own to rival his teammate Abner Acosta. Unfortunately for him, he's got a lot of progress to make up to catch his teammate, and he's probably going to be using up quite a bit of tire life making all these moves.
He certainly is, so he's got to try to find a way to dial it back just a little bit, find a way to maybe ride a little bit longer in order to try and save some tires here. He's making quick work to get around the outside of Stephen Hassett as he is utilizing the toe from the 28 of Matthew Long, but still in a little bit of a tricky situation because if you start using too much of your tires, you're going to start falling back and start on square one once again.
There's a pretty big buzz. There's almost contact between Hassett and Dinkel. There might have been a little bit of door banging there. They got away with it, but Hassett is going to fall to Trent Dinkel. As further up front, there was a bit of a separation between Chandler and Christian. That's come down a little bit, and also a little bit of trouble between Daniels and O'Brien. I think they might have done the same thing as Hassett and Dinkel through 3 and 4, as James O'Brien is falling all the way to the back of this train. Hudson's going to get by. O'Brien's still going to be side by side with Chandler. But if he can slot in the back of this train here, I think that's going to be very, very good news for Luke Christian, because that gap from 5th to 6th that's coming down, this 5-car pack for the lead, might be about to get a lot bigger.
Certainly does seem to get a lot bigger here as they work their way down the back straightaway. These 4 drivers trying to work their way closer and closer to the top 10 as we see that, or the race leader, as Daniels is trying and hunt down Richard Reagan. Looking at the lap times, Reagan Jr. is still running consistent lap times in the 41s, but Luke Christians and Pat Harvey, they're all staying, since they have the draft, in the 42nd bracket for the time being.
That little bobble between Daniels and O'Brien has allowed Richard Reagan Jr.'s lead to expand basically for the first time tonight. It's been non-existent for all of tonight because of the draft train behind him. Now he gets to breathe for a second. He gets to drive around in clean air for a second. Doesn't have to look in his mirrors to worry about James O'Brien maybe going for the lead. He can sit for a little bit, but he's not going to be able to sit for long because the gap was only about half a second there, about 0.5 of a second. Daniels is in the draft. Daniels is bringing the gap down, and Richard Reagan Jr. is going to have company again here in about a lap.
He certainly is as they work their way through. They are closing in quickly to the back bumper of Richard Reagan Jr. Reagan Jr. really struggling to try to make sure he can stay ahead, but he also has a little bit of the advantage from the draft, because once you get into that slipstream, that dirty air for drivers such as Joshua Daniels, it makes it a little difficult to pass and set up the pass. You're going to need a little help from the slipstream and the push from the car behind you, such as Chris Hudson.
And now you can see the second pack has caught the first pack. Luke Christian and James O'Brien for 5th and 6th as Chandler dives into the inside of Hudson as well. It is all kicking off here as the 2 tectonic plates merge. We're seeing a little bit of a fault here as everybody joins up. Christian on the inside, O'Brien on the outside, Pat Harvey in the teal number 67, also trying to think about making it 3 wide. He's going to get shut out. Taylor Stout's there as well. And Abner Acosta just kind of hunting around, sitting in P9, maybe saving a little bit of stuff for later on in the stint. I don't think Abner Acosta is 9th on pace right now. You have to think there's something up Abner's sleeve.
Certainly does seem to be something up Abner's sleeve. We probably will see that play as the run progresses, as the field works their way around the circuit here. And keeping an eye, the 2 drivers you see right there battling, James O'Brien, Taylor Stout to the inside, as he will complete the pass. We do have to report 1 driver taking it behind the wall, Joao Guerrera in the 51 out of the race.
I didn't see what happened to Joao Guerra, but that's disappointing for him. Had a great run in qualifying, was actually running pretty well, close to the front, but trouble for Joao Guerra early on in the season as Jeff Chandler is making moves like nobody else in the field. Ran about 5th or 6th for basically the entirety of this first stint, but it has been 23 laps. It has been basically a quarter of the race so far. The tires are definitely starting to go off for some of these guys. And clearly Jeff Chandler has done a pretty good job of saving him, because he has been passing left and right. He got by James O'Brien, got by Hudson, got by Daniels. Now there's only 1 more guy ahead of him.
Certainly is, and he's going to put on another drive to see if he can try and hunt down Richard Reagan, and he's got a big head of steam down the front straightaway. Will he send it to the inside? Not quite yet. He may try to set him up for 3 and 4.
Does he elect to go for the move at all, or does he elect to save a little bit of fuel in the train? That is the question on Jeff Chandler's mind. I don't think he's going to be able to bring down the gap to even think about that into 3 and 4, though. A little bit of aero wash, a little bit of understeer, a little bit of tightness off of turn 2. This is going to continue the ride around here. Daniels behind. It's a little bit of a run through 3 and 4, but they're draft locked right now. They are in a train, and I don't think Josh Daniels is going to be able to do anything about that right now. But here comes Jeff Chandler again. He has a run. Does he elect to do anything with it? He doesn't. He lifts out of it. He stays in line.
Sometimes it might be best just to save a little bit, so we're going to see that happening maybe for some of your front runners, as now Daniels goes to the outside, but not enough momentum to help carry him to get around Jeff Chandler for the moment. Chris Hudson stays back, as now here comes Chandler with a big head of steam down to the inside. He's got a little bit of help from Daniels from the slipstream, and he powers his way down to the inside. Can he clear Richard Reagan Jr. for the race lead off of 4? Yes, he can.
He finally got his chance, and he went for it, and we have a 3rd leader in this race, Jeff Chandler. I believe for the first time in the PRL, leading laps here at Michigan, pulling away from Richard Reagan Jr. for the moment at least. Is Daniels going to take advantage of this loss of momentum for Regan? Is he going to peek to the inside? No, he's not, but Luke Christian is. He's already going to be clear of Chris Hudson halfway through 1 and 2. Or at least he was for a moment. Hudson is fighting back on the high line, though. Where does Josh Daniels go? Does he give the draft to Hudson? Does he give the draft to Christian? Looks like he's going to be nonpartisan here and just sit in the middle of the track as these two continue. Pat Harvey pushes Lou Christian into 3, but he's not going to be able to get back to the inside of Hudson.
No escape right now for the time being for Christians, as here comes Pat Harvey right there. Luke Christians in the mix as he tries to throw the block. Close call right there as Christians shuts the door on Pat Harvey.
Very, very close quarters here between two teammates for SG Esports. I was just checking to make sure these guys aren't only teammates. They're teammates for SG Esports Pioneer, so they're not only in the same stable, but they are in the very same 3-car team. They were definitely working together down the back straight, but I don't know if that was working together on the front straight. I think that was just a late block from Lou Christian. Now Taylor Stout in the 66 peeks to the inside of Christian, and he's going to swallow both of the SG Esports Pioneer drivers up.
Certainly is, and he will move his way forward to try and see if he can break into the top 5 or top 4 as he hunts down Chris Hudson in the number 43 machine as they work their way through. We're about halfway through this stint where fuel will start to come into play.
You do have to start thinking after what happened on Wednesday night, after we literally went caution free. Do you have to think about this race as a potentially completely green flag race for 220 miles? Those don't often happen, especially in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, but if it does, you've got to be thinking about your long run speed. You've got to be thinking about fuel saving. Josh Daniels to the inside of Richard Regan Jr. here. My question is, has Richard Regan Jr. been saving a little bit here, or has he been using his stuff up too early? That's the question on all of our minds for every driver right now.
It certainly is, because Richard Reagan Jr. is now starting to fall back. He just got passed by Daniels and now under attack from Chris Hudson for the 3rd spot here. So we'll see if that's going to be the case, or will we see Reagan try to get on a little bit of a run towards the end of this fuel run here today as he's trying to conserve some tires.
Train goes all the way back to, I think, P13. I guess you could argue that James O'Brien, Hoggard, and Dinkle, and maybe even Mike Witt are in this train, but it does go back to Eric Papineau in P13 for sure. And all those drivers are able to ride in the draft. They're able to save a little bit if they want to. I think the drivers who are going to be at their absolute worst once the pit cycle does roll around, it'll be Regan, it'll be O'Brien, and it'll be Chandler, because they've been the drivers who've taken all the time leading this race, especially Jeff Chandler, who hasn't always been leading, but he's always been pushing. Now that he is leading, he's going to be expending even more fuel all on his lonesome as Daniels is struggling to bring down that gap.
He certainly is here as they work their way through. Here comes Daniels with a head of steam. Hudson to the inside of Richard Reagan Jr. as these 4 drivers are jockeying. How about Taylor Stout bringing in Luke Christians and Pat Harvey? This is going to be about a 7 to 8 car battle for the race lead because Acosta's at the tail end of this.
The fall of the Regan continues. Is it deliberate, or is it just a struggle for Richard Regan Jr.? That is the question. It's not going to get any less of a struggle anytime soon because, like you said, Taylor Stout on the back, Lou Christian looking as hungry as ever. Abner Acosta, he's like a little yellow shark back there. He's not making any aggressive moves, but he is back there. He is riding. As I say that, he almost got into the wall in turn 2, but he's not going to be out of contention ever here. Is up front, Josh Daniels again to the back of Jeff Chandler. Looks very, very familiar, though. He's able to close the gap down. He just needs to find a better place to get the run, because every time he gets it, it's a little bit too far back. It's a little bit too late to actually attempt to go for the move. This is a little bit of smoke on the front straight. I believe we've had our first green flag pit stop of the race already. Tom Amasi was riding around to the back of the field. You can see him down in the apron there. He's gone for a green flag pit stop. He's kicked off the pit cycle.
He certainly has, as the field now is caught up and now working their way around the circuit here as drivers try to get themselves situated for this stage of the race. But like you said, Amasi on pit road, now going to be 2 laps down for the time being, as we will see some more cars possibly put a lap down, as Jose Medina not too far from being put a lap down. He's about 2 seconds ahead of your race leader.
Yeah, Jose Medina started from the pits after being disallowed from qualifying. He's definitely hoping that one of those cautions comes out. That's going to be the thing that saves his race. Has not even come really close to happening, though. There was that little instant between Mark Kalin and Mike Witt, and That was the only bit of car contact, the only little bit of an incident that we've seen so far tonight. It's been a remarkably clean race. Hopefully me saying that doesn't jinx it and bring out the caution, but it has been very, very clean quarters so far as Acosta and Seminario are side by side for the last spots in the top 10. Matthew Long as well. Remember, he started at the back of the grid as well. He's moving his way forward. He's trying to make progress still, but Seminario is making things difficult.
Certainly just making things difficult as we ride on board with Matthew Long in that 28 Dirty South racing forward as he tries to get some of the toe. A little bit of issues up ahead of him for Matthew, as we saw there. It might have been either Acosta or Brian Johnson who were jockeying around for position.
Pat Harvey peeks up to the high line now to try and make that work. Doesn't appear like it's going to work for him, though. Byron Johnson is going to split up the two SGE Pioneer drivers. He's going to slot in between Christian and Harvey. Those two drivers that were attempting to work together, not going to be able to work together now for a little bit longer. We'll see if Harvey elects to go up on the high line. No, Byron Johnson sends it down to the bottom. Almost gets into the door of Lou Christian. The two SGE Sports teammates join each other again, but that's only because Byron Johnson absolutely sent it inside of both of them.
He certainly did send it inside as well and is able to hold on. A surprising turn of events here in this stage of the race as we see more cars starting to gaggle up. Acosta trying to get around Pat Harvey for 8th.
And Acosta had to check up there after that send. After Christian fell back, Harvey backed off of him to try not to spin him. There's a car in the wall up ahead. I think that might be Jose Medina. That is Jose Medina trying to get out of the way of the lead lap cars. He's going to go one lap down here after starting from the pits. He's doing a good job of staying out of the way. Might have gotten a little bit too out of the way, though, putting himself in the wall.
He's done that indeed here, and that's going to be a little bit tricky for this stage as we see Richard Reagan struggling now to try to stay in the top 5 as here comes Byron Johnson with a head of steam to the inside. Will he think about it, doing it into one? Yes, he will, as more cars. Eric Papineau coming down pit road.
Always a driver who kind of likes to go off strategy, Eric Papineau, so I suppose no real surprise to see him attempting something different, going for a little bit of an undercut here. Byron Johnson to the inside of Regan. Regan had to lift out a little bit there to not get into the wall, but he's got the help of Lou Christian down the back straight. A little bit of a push there from the nose. Johnson still trying to peek to the inside. Not able to get to the inside of Regan just yet, but on the exit of 4, Johnson has some phenomenal tire life under him, apparently, because he is swallowing up Richard Regan Jr. here. Going to steal a little bit of the side draft here down the front straight. He's going to try and send it deep into turn 1.
He's going to try to send it in, and he will make it work as a couple of cars are coming off of pit row. That's Eric Papineau in the 37 as they work their way around the circuit. But for Richard Reagan Jr. outside of the top 5 and 7th, Pat Harvey now. He'll try to get a run down the back straightaway. He has help from Acosta to draft down with him as they make the run to 3.
Harvey sends it in. Regan's not been strong through 3, and he's already been cleared by Pat Harvey. Now Acosta's going to peek to his inside. Matthew Long is going to join him as well. Clayton Ham behind, kind of riding a little bit anonymously in this pack. Hasn't been doing anything spectacular, but he's been holding his own. He's been making moves. He's in the top 10 now as he passes Richard Regan Jr. Seminario's coming next for Regan. Eric Papineau on those fresher tires is next up. Regan continues to fall as Trent Dinkle pits. That's the first driver from this lead pack who's decided to come down pit road.
He certainly has as we ride on board with Clayton Ham in the 7 Toyota. That YS Motorsports machine try to get a run down the back straightaway. He's going to go to the top side of the racetrack to get around the Dirty South. As there we see the fresh tires coming into play as Papineau going to pick up a couple of spots as we see another car. That looks like to be Lou Christian.
Lou Christian is in for SGE Sports, joining the fray. Trent Dinkle, Matthew R.D. Campbell, Jordan Slater, Robert Gambill, and Richard Regan Jr. is finally going to end his suffering and bring it down pit road. Put a fresh set of tires on that car. Your top 10 still staying out, and the caution is out on lap 39. Do not know who caused it. It may have been Mark Kalin, unfortunately, but that is not what some of those drivers who pitted wanted to see. Eric Papineau went 1 lap down. Trent Dinkle went 1 lap down. They're going to get waved around, but they did not want that caution to come out. We'll have to wait and see what happened, but it does look like it may have been Mark Kalin, maybe Ken Alland as well. Big trouble on lap 39. We do see Mark Kalin here on the apron, and that was coming out of the pits.
Ooh, tough break indeed from Mark Kalin as we see him loop it around.
Or was it coming into the pits?
I think it was coming into the pits because that's around turn 4. There's pit entry right there.
Big trouble for Mark Kalin, trying to move his way forward after having that little incident with Mike Witt earlier, fell to the back of the pack. Unfortunately, he's dug himself a little bit bigger of a hole. This caution came out at the perfect time for all these drivers who stayed out. For Jeff Chandler especially, Josh Daniels, Hudson, Stout, Johnson, and Abner Acosta stayed out. Didn't do the same thing that his teammate Trent Dinkle did. Just stayed out for a longer stint, waited for all of his buddies in the lead pack to come in, and it's going to pay off for him because he's going to restart in basically the same place he started this race in P6.
Certainly is, and that's going to be a big opportunity for him, as now we'll see the rest of the field coming down pit road.
It'll become a race for the lead on pit road. Jeff Chandler will be in. Josh Daniels is going to follow him in, as is everybody, all the way down to Byron McDonald, who did not get to pit yet. Here comes Chandler. Here comes Daniels. Everybody hops on the brakes. Now you've got to nail your stop. You've got to nail your marks. Make sure you don't overshoot the box, because with everybody as packed up as they are under caution, if you overshoot, if you have to back up, that's going to be about 5 spots lost, if anything.
Certainly is, and that's not going to be fun whatsoever for any of these drivers.
Everybody's able to get it slowed down. No real trouble, as there is trouble for Jeff Chandler. I thought he got it slowed down. He did not. He absolutely overshot his box, and the race leader, he spent so much time waiting to back up that I think he's going to fall out of the top 10. Josh Daniels wins the race off pit road over Chris Hudson, and you can see Jeff Chandler just now getting out of his box. He's going to rejoin outside of the top 10 in P12.
Tough break here for Jeff Chandler, as he is now going to have a lot of work to do during this stage of the race, as we are just about closing in on 70 laps left to go in the race. A lot of work still to do for him.
Richard Regan Jr., Lou Christian, James O'Brien, and Joe Hoggard were all lucky because the caution came out before they went one lap down. So they all stay on the lead lap here. They will get to keep their positions at the head of this train. And they're only on 2 and 3 lap older tires than the drivers behind them. So the caution did come out at an opportune time for those 4 drivers, but they will still be on slightly older rubber than the likes of Josh Daniels and basically everybody else behind them. 2 laps isn't a lot of laps, but it is still definitely some extra wear that Richard Regan Jr. does not want from the lead of this race.
It certainly does not, and this is going to be a little bit critical for him, because those tires are definitely not going to be in the right situation, and we got to see, can he learn something to maybe have saved some tires during this next stage?
There's 4 drivers ahead of Regan right now. Those are Jordan Slater, Robert Gamble, Matthew Campbell, and Tom Amasi, and Trent Dinkle as well. They're all going to get waved around the pace car here. So Richard Regan Jr. takes control of the field here as Lou Christian decides to pass him under caution for some reason. We are packing everybody up here 2 by 2. We are ready to restart once more. Restart on lap number 43 here. It was a very, very long first stint. They did a very, very good job of keeping things clean and green. Just a little bit of a drop coming into the pits from Mark Kalin that kicked everything off here. But now we go for a restart. We essentially go for stage 2 of this race. We see who's learned anything from that first stint. Has Richard Regan Jr. learned anything about tire saving? Is Abner Acosta going to be better off starting closer to the rest of the field? It's quite a mystery here with 2/3 of the race left to go.
It really is going to be a mystery here, but I think a lot of these drivers have took some notes, and they're going to be ready to go for it again for this second stage of the race.
Top 10 as they roll. Richard Regan Jr., Lou Christian, O'Brien, Hoggard, Daniels, Hudson, Stout, Johnson, Harvey, and Abner Acosta. The top 10 here coming to the restart. But for the second time tonight, the iRacing Sedan pace car is going to round turn 4. It's going to pull onto pit road, and Richard Regan Jr. will retake control of the field with the ultimate pressure here. He's going to pull forward a little bit, tell the pace car, come on, speed up, get off the track here. We want to go racing now. And Richard Regan Jr. does now take control of the field. The green flag back in Barney the Flagman's hands, and for the second time tonight, we're green at Michigan.
Beautiful jump right there for Richard Regan Jr. to check out all the rest of the field, as everyone else is going to go 2 by 2, get themselves sorted out for a run here out of turn number 2, and try to hunt down your race leader, Richard Regan Jr.
Lou Christian trying to make the high side work on Josh Daniels. Joe Hoggard fading up into the wall almost. Chris Hudson definitely got a little bit of a scrape off the turn 2 wall there. I don't think it was anything too bad, but there was very little air between that car and the wall. Daniels sends it back to the inside of Christian, trying to fight back. But it's early on in the run. The outside and the inside can both work. Christian is just barely going to be clear of Josh Daniels here. He's going to get the draft of James O'Brien. Book Lou Christian into third.
Christians now, let's see what he can do. Could he possibly come home with his first career victory in 2023? He's now going to shut the door. Little contact right there between him and Joshua Daniels as Daniels slides back in behind as Joe Hoggard works the outside lane.
We know Joe Hoggard loves the outside. We know Joe Hoggard loves his own short run speed, and he is using that to his full ability right now. Remember, he is still on slightly older tires than some of the drivers behind him, but he is trying to take advantage of the outside here as James O'Brien takes the lead over Richard Regan Jr. A little bit of a bobble from Regan, and he's fallen from the lead to 5th place in the space of 2 corners.
Really struggling with these new set of tires for him. Can he try to hold on here and get it back going as here comes Hoggard down to the inside, almost not about making it 3 wide.
Josh Daniels to the inside of James O'Brien. Chris Hudson to the inside of Lou Christian. They are swamping each other here up front. It almost looks like the pace lap again because it is just 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back as Regan barely clears Joe Hoggard trying to stop the bleeding. Lou Christian's going to get back down to the bottom behind Chris Hudson, and James O'Brien, who led about 1 lap ago, he's basically going to fall back to the last spot in the top 5 now.
This is going to get exciting here as the drivers try to sort themselves out for a run as they work their way down across the front straightaway, heading off into turn 1. Daniels and Hudson going to battle for the race lead as Hudson thinks about going to the inside. Not close enough to make anything work just yet.
A little bit of contact further back between Matthew Long, I believe, and potentially Richard Regan Jr. Taylor Stout was around there as well. Lots of drivers just stepping over each other here in the middle of the field. Up front, we've stratified things just a little bit. We're back to 1 by 1. It doesn't look like a pace lap anymore, but it's a great run from Chris Hudson here off of turn 4. He's going to have a great run on Josh Daniels. Is he going to be able to do anything with it? Does he want to do anything with it? Looks like the answer to either of those questions is no. Hudson just elects to stick behind and ride behind his own teammate in second.
Sometimes it's not a bad strategy call just to go ahead and ride behind your teammate. Maybe try to see if you two can work together, pull away from your competition, save a little fuel, save some tires. But one driver, Byron Johnson, thinks better of it. He tries to go slingshot away on the back straightaway. Not able to make it stick, though, as they head off into turn 3.
Byron loves to send it into turn 3, though. Wasn't able to because Lou Christian did exactly the same thing. Both of them going for similarly aggressive moves into turn 3. And both have got similarly good runs off the corner. Unfortunately, though, they're a little bit locked in this train here with the Love Racing Armada at the head of the field. It's going to be hard to break up, but Christian takes a peek. He gets a shot to the inside of Chris Hudson. He's going to be to the inside of Josh Daniels as well. Looks like Daniels is going to be able to be clear of him off of turn 2. And Christian looks for the hole ahead of Chris Hudson to try and break up the Love Racing teammates.
He certainly is going to do that here as he gets a good run there. Lou Christian with help from Johnson. And how about Taylor Stout going to go to the bottom of the racetrack as they come off of 4?
Lou Christian takes the lead. Is Byron Johnson going to send it 3 wide in the number 18? He is not. He thinks better of that, and frankly, there's not enough real estate for him to do that, but he's going to try and push Lou Christian here, I think, to help them both overtake these 2 Love Racing drivers. But now on the outside, it's Daniels and Hudson, a different line for them than they're used to. Christian trying to make the inside work. Johnson trying to make the inside work as well. But the momentum on the outside still working for Josh Daniels. Christian not able to clear him for the lead.
He is not going to be able to clear him whatsoever during this stage of the race. They got a little bit of work to do. As here comes Christians now. He will clear Josh Daniels. Can he do it off of 4? Yes, he can, barely. But here comes Byron Johnson. Now he's got to block both lanes as there's a drag race to the start finish.
If that was the finish, I think Lou Christian would have won the race by about 1,000th of a second. That's how close it was at the line. He was so close to being clear of Josh Daniels there, and now he will be clear of Daniels. A little bit of a bobble through 1 and 2 for Josh Daniels. Lou Christian takes up the high line. Actually, he's going to try and go back down and bring Byron Johnson with him. Now he has to decide, do I go with my trusty old buddy Byron Johnson on the bottom, or do I take the top again from Josh Daniels? Lou Christian basically says, I'm going to take the best of both worlds here. I'm going to take the top entering, I'm going to take the bottom in the middle, and then I'm going to go back up at the top.
Just try to set yourself up all over the place and hold on for dear life here as they make the run down across the front straightaway here, 2 by 2, couple of rows deep, as we have at least 9 cars battling for the race lead.
An update on those drivers who got waved around the pace car ahead of Richard Regan Jr. They're actually still trapped a lap down. I don't know what happened there, but Matthew Campbell, Jordan Slater, Charles Sumner, Robert Gamble, Tom Amasi, Jose Medina, and Trent Dinkle are all still trapped 1 lap down, which is very, very strange. I thought they all got waved around. I could have sworn they did, but they're all still trapped 1 lap down, and it's become an 8-car fight for the lucky dog if the caution ever comes out again.
It has indeed come in 8-car fast. Speak of the...
There it is. Richard Regan Jr. and Johan Seminario, as they're still wrecking, checking up for the accident. A few other drivers, I think Brett Punkari may have been turned into the wall. Robert Besaw Jr. has had to take a tow back to pit lane. And there has been quite a big kerfluffle on the front straight. I think I can say that much. Ken Holland as well ran into trouble. I think he actually ended up on pit road in avoidance. But that's Richard Regan Jr. in the multicolored entry. Johan Seminario in the magenta entry up top. They get locked together, and everybody else runs into trouble trying to avoid him. Eric Papineau into the wall. Abner Acosta made it through, and a few others just kind of piled in.
Certainly have did and piled in, unfortunately, taking in a lot of heavy hitters in this race due to the fact of the contact right there.
Now this kind of evens things out. Richard Regan Jr. is still going to be on the lead lap, but he is going to be heavily damaged after that incident, and he's going to restart in about 29th here. Those drivers who were 1 lap down, they don't really get a chance to fight for the lucky dog right now either, because Matthew R.D. Campbell will be the lucky dog. He will get the wave around under this caution, and he'll get to join our friends here on the lead lap. Everybody else will have to just wait for yet another caution and yet another chance to get waved around. This is an interesting time of the race, though, because we didn't have the longest stint in the world there. It was only about 12 laps on these tires, but that's still 12 laps on these tires. That is still going to wear them. See if anybody elects to bring it down pit road under this caution. Josh Daniels showing his intent here. Is this a little bit of a dummy, or is he actually going to come down? Number 77, he's preparing to do it. Lou Christian is going to come down with him, and everybody's going to bring it down pit road.
Everybody coming down here. We're going to see how this will play out for our competitors as they set themselves up for this stage of the race. And this is only, like you said, a 12-lap run.
I think some of those drivers who went 1 lap down, they're going to stay out and get the wave around here, but everybody else in the field brings it back down pit road here, and it's the same thing. It's tough to reach your box here at Michigan. The brakes are not inclined to stop you in your box here. We saw it happen to Jeff Chandler. He lost the lead of the race after just that 1 bobble on pit road. Everybody else looks to have hit their box here, though. Richard Regan Jr. finally going to make it into his box, but Josh Daniels easily going to win the race off pit road over Richard Pruitt, who I think may have just taken 2 tires.
Interesting strategy call, I have to say, for Richard Pruitt. Even though it's a decent one to maybe consider in the early stages, as we're approaching halfway, it may not work out as this run progresses.
It's actually entirely possible that Richard Pruitt took no tires there, so maybe he thinks there's only a finite amount of tire sets you have in this race. Maybe he doesn't want to take all of them. Maybe he thinks we'll get more cautions, we'll get more chances to take those tire sets, and he's potentially going to restart from second here. Johan Seminario stayed out under the caution, but I can't imagine he's going to stay out for the restart here. He was the driver who ended up in the wall at about 200 miles per hour with Richard Regan Jr., and understandably, he's going to bring it down pit road here to get that damage repaired. We'll see if Richard Pruitt brings it down as well, or if he's going to elect to restart this race on potentially 14-lap-old tires. No, the number 924 does pull down again. He will take tires on this stop, and Josh Daniels will retake the lead of this race over Matthew Long, who had a great run through pit road. he's as high as he's been all day. Remember, he restarted from the pits after being disallowed from qualifying. He's moved his way through the field. He's been making all sorts of progress. And after a great pit stop, he finds himself to the outside of the leader.
Great way to kick off his run here in this second half of the event. As we'll see if this comes to play here, as Daniel's now looking to try to see if he can get a shot of victory here tonight.
Hearing from our intrepid insider, whistleblower, whatever we call him, Mr. Nick Hunter, that Trent Dinkel actually had to serve a black flag. So I think he did get waved around, and then he had to take a black flag, and then he went one lap down. But now he is back on the lead lap. He did get waved around after everybody pitted under this caution. He is on 11-lap-old tires, though. So Trent Dinkel definitely hoping for another caution so he can restart on the lead lap and on the same age of tires as the rest of the field. He's still got quite a bit of work to do as our defending champion. But Josh Daniels takes control of the field here for the first time tonight. He's been up front all night. He's taking little peeks at the lead. He's taking little bites at it. But for the first time tonight, he's going to be in control here on the restart. And that's going to be interesting for the rest of the field. It's been all Richard Regan Jr. They could kind of expect what he was going to do on the restarts. You don't necessarily know what Josh Daniels is going to do from the lead.
No, you certainly do not indeed, and this is going to be interesting to see how this will play out for the competitors here as they get themselves situated for this stage of the race. A lot of things coming into action here as we are closing in on the halfway point of tonight's race. Actually, we are at the halfway point as they come across the line.
They tricked me. I thought we were 1 to green there because they all packed up so nice and so early, but no, we got one more lap until we're actually going green. That's the magic of tricking the commentators. They're all so kind. They all want to get ready to go racing too. But I was excited there. I was ready. I was setting that up. Now we got 2 more miles. What do you want to talk about for the next 30 seconds now, Taylor? We got time to fill.
Well, we do got time to fill indeed. I'm looking through to see who's been some of the biggest movers of today's race, and that definitely has to go to the 28 of Matthew Long. Started 34th, is now running second. How about Byron Johnson gaining 20 spots from 24th to 4th position? And then, of course, probably some of the drivers who've been struggling. Richard Regan, 1st to 25th, as we currently have 33 cars on the lead lap, possibly about to be 32. One truck or car out of the race so far.
I see a highlighter yellow entry in the background as well. Mark Kalin, remember, he brought out the first caution, losing it trying to come down pit road, nosed it into the wall at about 100 miles per hour. Somehow, the Whataback pit crew has done an absolutely phenomenal job in repairing that car, and he's been on pace, he's been on speed with the rest of the field, and he's going to restart from P14, so maybe the Mark Kalin season isn't starting again. Maybe it is a season of good luck for Mark Kalin here. We'll have to wait and see. There is still half of the race to go here as we do get ready to restart. For the second time tonight, the iRacing Sedan pace car pulls off, and for the first time tonight, it's a driver not named Richard Regan Jr. in control of the field. The green flag is in the hands of Barney the Flagman, and the field is in control of Josh Daniels. We're racing again in Michigan.
Daniels and Long will battle for the race lead as they get themselves 2 by 2 heading off into turn number 1. As they try to do so, here comes Byron Johnson with a head of steam as they work their way through. Everyone trying to find a drafting partner to set themselves up for the run off turn 2. And 3 wide contact is made. A big shunt right there. There's more contact as they head down the back stretch.
Byron Johnson getting very aggressive and almost turning himself down the back straight. Now Jeff Chandler to the inside of Lou Christian. Taylor Stout on the outside. They were 3 wide for a moment. They've resolved it for the moment. But it is very, very dicey stuff here on the restart. Everybody trying to take advantage as early as they can. Mike Witt peeks down to the apron. Josh Daniels and Byron Johnson get ready for round 2 up front, though.
Here they go as they work their way down to the inside. Johnson and Christensen now battling for that 3rd spot as Long and Daniels are pretty happy as here they come. Johnson not giving an inch. He's going to force the 21 machine up the racetrack even further.
I think any drivers behind Byron Johnson right now are probably not going to be wanting to be they don't want to be to his outside for the rest of this race because he has been absolutely ruthless on this restart here. Taylor Stout's going to be the next driver to get to his outside now, and Taylor's probably going to be a little bit worried coming out of 2 here because Byron Johnson, he hasn't wrecked anybody. He hasn't done anything too egregious, but he's been aggressive as heck into turn 2 here. Here we go. Johnson to the inside, Jeff Chandler to the outside. Johnson sends it into the corner. Is he going to wash up into the side of Jeff Chandler this time? Almost.
Almost is definitely too close for comfort for him here as he tries to set himself up down into the back straightaway here. He's now going to try to get around that 31 machine as he's outside of the top 5 once again here. But Chandler sets himself up to pull away from Byron Johnson.
We've gone single file mode. We've gone train mode for at least a moment, all the way back to Mark Kalin actually in P12. But now, as soon as I say that, Luke Christian does peek to the inside. He wants to make these moves in the short term. He wants that track position. He peeks to the inside of Josh Daniels here. On the exit, though, the outside has always been the place to be for Josh Daniels. He's going to be able to pick up the draft from Matthew Long here. Daniels will hold off the attack from Lou Christian, at least for the moment. But you know Lou's not going away. He's going to try and send it to the inside of turn 3 here. Not going to work, though. Daniels is clear. Now Taylor Stout attacks for 3rd.
Stout now setting himself up for a great run down the front straightaway here, as now Jeff Chandler thinks about going 3 wide, thinks better of it. He's going to push Luke Christensen down the front straightaway on the bottom of the racetrack.
Next up's going to be Byron Johnson attempting to get to the outside of Lou Christian. Christian's going to have to check up here as Daniels occupies the bottom and the top. He's running Michigan road course style here, trying to hit the apexes at the bottom of the track, and that's going to check up Lou Christian's momentum. Stout's going to get by. Byron Johnson's going to be to his outside into 3 and 4. Christian's going to send it in again, but Johnson able to use that outside. Able to have a little bit better tire life, apparently. Lou Christian falls to the back of the top 5.
Oldest fair for him as he tries to set up for the longer run here. 61 lap trouble on the front straightaway. Mark Kalin and Pat Harvey.
Mark Kalin making progress through the field up into the top 12, and suddenly he's ended up in victory circle. So congrats, Mark Kalin, on your victory, but not so much congrats for ending up in the front stretch grass for the 2nd time tonight. Bad luck for Mark Kalin, somewhat ironically, on lap number 62 again. He was getting aggressive, he was making moves, trying to make up for lost time. And evidently, the front straight has not been his friend tonight.
Certainly has not. No caution. We're going to still keep racing here tonight as Johan Seminario will now take it behind the wall as well. 2 cars out for today's race.
Eric Papineau as well, who we saw kind of getting collected in that little incident with Seminario and Regan. He is still in the race, but he's also been on pit road for 8 minutes getting all those damage repairs. Hopefully we see him back out on track. Eric Papineau's not the kind of driver who gives up before the race is over, but his pit crew has quite a bit of work to do to get the number 37 back out on track. Hopefully we'll see him out here in the next couple minutes.
Indeed, we'll see that come into play for him, and he will rejoin to continue at racing here at the Michigan International Speedway. As we still watch the battle between the drivers here of none other than Taylor Stout, and here you see the sidewinding action, people trying to throw blocks to keep the slipstream behind them, as Matthew Long is just trying to keep his eyes forward.
I want to bring your attention to 22nd place right now because Trent Dinkel, I mentioned that he got waved back onto the lead lap after that last caution. He restarted on 11 lap older tires than the rest of the field. He definitely still needs another caution, but he has been making moves, he's been making progress, and he has been doing things with those tires that didn't seem possible because he's driven from 29th on the restart to 22nd right now on 11 lap older tires than the rest of the field. He still needs the caution, but he's been making good progress. He's been making up for the bad hand he's been drawn. He just has to hope that he's not the caution that comes out that does bring his strategy back into contention.
He's hopefully trying to do that here as he sets himself up. Taylor Stout right there in the mix. Byron Johnson as they work their way around the circuit here. Everyone now starting to get single file for this stage of the run.
Daniel's just trying to make sure that Long doesn't pull too far away here. Long's been absolutely in control. He's pulled a bigger and more consistent gap than anybody's been able to all night. It's been about 0.3 of a second this whole time, as maybe Daniels is just saving a little bit, maybe he's hanging back, maybe Long is just that fast. either way, the gap has been pretty stationary here. Daniels able to bring it down in the draft down the front straight again. Not going to be close enough to think about a move. Taylor Stout just peeks the nose of that Ford Mustang to the inside of Daniels through 1 and 2. Doesn't have the momentum to make the move. Byron Johnson is getting hungry, coming down the back straight.
Here they come down the back straightaway. Byron Johnson with a head of steam. Will he send it to the inside? You ride on board with him and that YS Motorsports yellow machine as he keeps up with the Dirty South Racing machine up ahead of him out of turn 4.
7-car breakaway from the rest of the field now, and it's far bigger than that breakaway was a little bit earlier. Chris Hudson is at the back of this train now, and then you have to go 3 full seconds back to find James O'Brien in P number 8. Clayton Ham, McDonald, Hoggart as well. They're all joining him in a secondary train, but there has been quite the separation. I think likely caused by that Mark Kalin incident. Everybody checking up for that.
Is indeed trying to check up for that here and try to set themselves up for a little bit of a run as the laps continue to wind down here at the Michigan International Speedway. Luke Christian sends it down to the inside of Byron Johnson to move up to P4. And now we see Daniels try to shut the door. Contact made as they come across the line.
Johnson and Christian, tempers flaring a little bit, and here we go again into turns 1 and 2. It's been tough to go side by side here at times. Now it's Christian at the bottom, Johnson trying to make the top work. Christian fades up just a little bit, works out for him though, and Byron Johnson is going to be able to clear him with the momentum of Josh Daniels. Now Taylor Stout joins his teammate Matt Long up in the lead of this race, or up in the lead duo of this race, rather. We've seen this dynamic before with Daniels and Hudson. Are the two teammates going to work together? Are they just going to ride in line to try and defend from everybody? Or is Josh Daniels going to be able to break it up before they can even think about that?
It's a good question. We could see the two teammates try to work together here. It's a good opportunity to try to work together, pull away from the competition, because 2 cars can actually make that work here. But the question is, will everyone else try to stay organized to keep the pace going?
Byron Johnson still just running that little bit higher than Josh Daniels, trying to get a little bit of clean air on the nose. But here is that Hornet's Nest a little bit further back. 3 seconds behind our lead pack is whatever the heck this is. O'Brien, Ham, McDonald, Hoggard, Walter, Zemke, Johnson, Hassett, Abner Acosta, and a few others around the back. It is just craziness back here, and Abner Acosta has just been swallowed in this all day. He's been attempting to move his way forward in the field. He's been trying to charge forward, but he keeps getting stuck in stuff like this, and he can't move.
He certainly has been struggling indeed here as we watch Acosta try to work his way further up the field. Hard to believe, this is probably one of the lowest positions we've seen him in for quite a few races, actually, as he's sitting in 16. Now slides back in line behind the 91 of Stephen Hassett.
Abner had a great race here on Wednesday night. It was him versus Elliott White for basically the entirety of the race. There were no cautions. It was green for the entirety of the 50-minute race, and I guess you can understand that the tire wizard took very, very kindly to that. Still finished second. Couldn't quite get by Elliott White, but he had a great run. The long runs always help Abner Acosta. He hasn't quite had one of those yet. We had a decently long run in the first stint. We almost made it to green flag pit stops for the whole field in lap 42. But it has not quite gone Abner's way as his teammate almost gets turned by Joe Hoggart into turn 2.
He certainly does, as we're going to go 3 wide. More contact is made between Zemke and Hoggart as they try to sort themselves out of turn number 3. And Brandon Walter is now approaching the top 10.
Brandon Walter always seems to have these races. We don't talk about him too much. He never does anything that really stands out, but he stands out in his own way by driving his way through the field and making passes. He's almost like Takeshi Kita. He's almost like Mr. Sneaky in the F3 series here in the PRL. And this is the kind of thing he does every single week. He starts deeper in the field than he would like and drives up into the top 10. He did it in the Xfinity race on Wednesday. He's doing it again now as Hoggart and Zemke, as I was telling my ode to Brandon Walter there, they almost got into each other off turn 2, and Abner Acosta is going to make it 3 wide with them.
He certainly is as they try to get themselves running up out of turn number 4 here. They get a great run as Acosta now gets to the inside of Hoggart here as they work their way across the front straightaway. Zemke really threading the needle right in front.
Just barely clear of Scotty Johnson there in the 07, but he's going to push Abner Acosta forward here. Abner Is he better on the tires than Joe Hoggard right now? Is he going to have an advantage on the inside? He's getting squeezed down by Joe Hoggard, so if he does have any tire advantage, it's not going to be able to be used, because Hoggard has the momentum again here. Down the back straight, they're still side by side. Coming into turn 3, is Abner going to send it in here? Is he going to be able to clear Hoggard? Not even close. Joe Hoggard on that high line is almost unbeatable.
Certainly is looking to be almost unbeatable indeed as we watch the field now. Once again, Acosta chopping the nose off right there as well in front of Scotty Johnson. I bet Scotty's got to be a little bit kind of holding onto the seat of his pants just a little bit as he's trying to avoid not bumping into the back bumper of any of these competitors.
He's been getting bullied back here, and Abner is going to be a little bit further ahead of him this time here down the back straight. I don't think he'll have to worry too much, but Joe Hoggard all over the back of Brandon Walter, who attempts to block Hoggard, just barely clear of him. Lucky he didn't get himself turned there. Hoggard's getting very, very aggressive. Is he going to take too kindly to that block from Walter? I don't think he will, because that's going to allow Brandon Walter's teammate Abner Acosta to peek to the inside once more. Was that a little bit of teammate helping teammate there? If it was, it's not going to help him too much, because Hoggard's still going to have the draft of Brandon Walter. They're going to stay in line up top, and Abner Acosta's still not going to be able to make that move.
He is certainly not going to try to do that here as they work their way down into turns 1 and 2. Drivers now trying to find different lines as they come out of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Hoggard, a great run on Walters, crosses him over down the back straightaway here. For Walters cannot challenge once again. Here comes that 64-4 down to the inside. Lap traffic on the bottom.
It's Johan Seminario coming out of the pits, I think, to get even more damage repaired. Yeah, he's 17 laps down, so he's going to be riding around at the bottom, just picking up the pieces if he can. He stays out of the way, and Joe Hoggard is going to get ahead of Brandon Walter here, who now has to fight with his own teammate Abner Acosta. Johnson looks forward, or rather Hoggard looks forward to Hassett and O'Brien. He's basically in a sandwich of 2-car battles here. He's got to decide who am I going to take advantage of here? It looks like it's going to be James O'Brien in the next private label team hype car, who's definitely struggling here on the long runs. He qualified P2, clearly has great one-lap speed, but the long runs have not been James O'Brien's friend tonight.
They certainly have not indeed here for James O'Brien as he's trying to find a way to recover his run after being up towards the top 5 in the early stages of today's race. He has his teammate and 2 of his teammates right behind him as they try to work up and catch into the top 10 once again.
This is not a very private label team hype day. They came in today leading the team's championship after Abner won in race 1. But the lead private label team hype driver is Abner Acosta in P12 right now. O'Brien P13, Walter P14, Dinkle P22. There's still quite a bit of ground left to go in the race, but this has not been the best night in the world for private label team hype.
No, it certainly has not, and they got to try to quickly find a way to sort themselves out and determine how they want to play this out for this next stage of the race here. Not a lot of time left here as we see a couple of drivers swapping position. Waldo Walden getting around Scotty Johnson for the 15th spot.
I don't know if we're going to be thinking about going green to the rest of the race here, but it's going to be an interesting strategy decision. You can still go 15, 16, 17 more laps on this stint. We've only been out here for about 24 laps. But do you want to go that long? Or do you want to think, maybe I'll go for an undercut? Maybe I'll hope that it goes green until the end of this race, come in with maybe about 40 or 30 laps to go instead, get that undercut, get that track position? That's the decision drivers are going to have to make here, because it's just long enough that you're not going to be able to go to the end without stopping. But it's also just long enough that you've got to think, do I have to risk a green flag pit stop, or do I wait for the caution to come out?
It really is a mix of both. You want to try and see if you can stay out as long as possible, but be prepared to call an audible in case of caution does come out here in the stages of the race. So we'll see how this plays out. For our front runners, they may think about short pitting it, but for those towards the back half of the field, they may consider coming down pit road.
Well, just as I mentioned that, I saw somebody lighting up on my timing screen. Richard Regan Jr. has decided to bring it down pit road here with 30 laps to go. Robert Gamble has joined him. It is a gamble for Gamble and Richard Regan Jr. He's been on the back foot after that reckless Seminario. Might as well throw something at the wall and hope your fortunes turn around. These do look like scheduled stops for both of them. There's no black flags. There's no damage that needs to be repaired. Regan and Gamble are going for the gamble.
They certainly are going to go for the gamble indeed here as they try to see what they can do. Can they utilize those fresh tires to try and work their way up to the field? 30 laps to go coming next time by.
And Hoggard currently learning that the aggressiveness giveth, the aggressiveness eventually taketh away. I think I added an extra th there. But he was making all those aggressive moves. He got by Abner Acosta, was challenging Hassett, and unfortunately, those tires have fallen off Joe Hoggard's car. They're pretty haggard right about now. And now Byron McDonald is going to get to his inside. Waldo Walden, who's just been hanging around in the foreground here, he's going to move his way forward as well. We tune back in up front, that long and stout duo up front for Dirty South Racing. They're at risk of being broken up here. Here comes Josh Daniels to the inside of Taylor Stout. He's going to get a little bit of a push from Lou Christian here. Is Daniels going to be able to send it to the inside to turn 3? No, he's not. Taylor Stout blocks that off.
Taylor Stout really having a great run here tonight at Michigan as he's been inside the top 5 for the second half of this race for quite some time, and he is running faster than your race leader, Matthew Long. He gets a big tow as the two Dirty South Fords try to work together.
It is good to see Taylor Stout back in this series. 2 wins in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, but we didn't see much of him in 2022. He was there for season 1, wasn't able to race with us for the rest of the year, but in 2023, Taylor Stout's finally back with us. Unfortunately, as I say that, he's getting a little bit bullied by Josh Daniels, has to lift and not get into the wall off of turn 2. Daniels to the inside to turn 3. Christian's going to try and follow Daniels in there. He's not going to be able to clear him. Josh Daniels is, though. Daniels up into second, Stout falls to third.
Out trying to hold on here as he gets a good run, but how about Joshua Daniels trying to cover both lanes as here comes Luke Christian down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Lou Christian just trying to go anywhere he can where there's room. He does get to the inside, and I think he will be clear of Taylor Stout here, who is definitely struggling right about now. Chris Hudson is going to be on the scene soon. Byron Johnson is still around, and Jeff Chandler. Haven't said much about him recently as well, but he's still riding around in 7th. Last car in this pack here. An update on Richard Regan Jr., who did pit. His lap times right now, 40.8. Matthew Long, our race leader's lap time, 41.4. So it is clearly faster to be on those newer tires. And Matthew Long, your race leader, comes in. He knows that. Oh, Taylor Stout tries to get it slowed down. I think he did, but that was very, very late in the brakes.
Very late in the brakes indeed here as they try to dive themselves down to the pit road. Now we'll see who else will respond to set themselves up for the pit stops.
And will the caution come out during the pit cycle again? That's the question on all those drivers' minds. Daniels and Christian take over the lead of this race. Is Josh Daniels going to try and cover off the undercut here? Is he going to come in on this lap? He's got Lou Christian behind him, keeping him company. So if he does pit here, I hope he's called it out. And he is going to come in. Christian's going to follow him in. Hudson's going to follow him in. Jeff Chandler is going to follow him in as well. They're all going to get it slowed down, but they have been playing with fire on that pit commit cone.
They certainly have been playing with fire indeed here as everyone's coming down pit road. Waldo Walden and Scotty Johnson currently now pick up the race lead as we see here James O'Brien staying out as well during this next lap.
Bad news for Taylor Stout fans. I thought he got it slowed down, but race control thinks otherwise. Taylor Stout has been given a black flag for being too fast entering the pits. He had a chance to fight for the win. And I think that might be over now with a couple of miles per hour.
And as we see here, everyone else now rejoins the circuit. That 31 machine of Jeff Chandler in the Abruzzi Chevrolet will rejoin the track and try to see what he can do if he can try to get some fresh tires here and some clean air.
James O'Brien hoping that caution comes out. I think Brett Pancari stays out as well. And Pat Harvey, who ran into trouble with Mark Kalin a little bit earlier, he's going to stay out as well. But he's at risk of being swallowed up by Matthew Long in the very near future because there's only 5 seconds separating them. Let's see, does James O'Brien elect to bring it down this time, or is he going to extend this stint for as long as he humanly can? It's only lap number 32 of his stint, so theoretically James O'Brien could go for 10 more laps here. Brett Pancari could as well. But do they want to extend it for as long as humanly possible? Maybe the caution will come from this. 3 wide between Abner Acosta, Byron McDonald, and Richard Regan Jr. McDonald threads the needle. Regan and Acosta, they're forced to fight side by side behind him.
I've seen threading the needle, but that takes a whole new level to threading the needle, as we saw there from that number 8 Byron Johnson machine. As the Roads to Gems, Martin Sports number Toyota is trying to work his way up through the field and really setting the pace here as he works his way up. Currently now trying to get around Clayton Ham for the 12th position.
Clayton Ham is barely clear there, able to bring it down to the bottom, able to block off the run from McDonald there. Both of these drivers have got to be pretty worried with Abner Acosta behind him, though. You know, he's not had the best race in the world so far tonight. He might not be the fastest driver in the field tonight, but we've got a long run coming until the end of the race if we don't get a caution. 22 laps is a pretty decently long run, and you're gonna have to do a lot of work to hold Abner Acosta behind in that long of a run here. O'Brien still staying out. He's got a little bit of help. He's got a draft from the number 11 of the Aerotechnics driver, Roy Grand. Just hanging out here, maybe saving a little bit more fuel, maybe to make this run even longer than it would be normally. James O'Brien, he's not going to pit anytime soon. He's going to pit as soon as that tank runs completely dry, I think.
He certainly looks to be that way as well here, and we're going to see if he can stretch it out further and further, closing in on 20 laps to go, and looking at how long he has been running for the time being. 35 laps, that is really closing into the end of his fuel window.
I think if you've committed to this strategy at this point, you can't give up on it early. You've got to go all the way to the end of the fuel stint. You've got to go to lap 42 in your stint, about lap 97 in this race, because you've committed to this. You got to stay committed. If you give up, you've lost everything, and there's nothing to gain from it.
There certainly is nothing to gain from it, indeed, as we watch on these drivers try to get themselves set up for a run here and getting them continuing on. As we watch these drivers, this is possibly for the provisional race lead, as that 28 of Matthew Long is trying to set himself up to hold on ahead against Byron Johnson, as well as also that machine of Taylor Stout, who fortunately was a lap down after that penalty.
Yeah, Stout's just desperately trying to stay on the lead lap here. If he can get by Matthew Long, he'll likely be on the lead lap. We do get a late race caution, but is Matthew Long going to give him that help? Is he going to let his teammate by? Yes, he is. He's got to be careful, though. He's going to give Taylor Stout the track position. He's going to let him lead the race, but he's under pressure from Byron Johnson now. This essentially becomes the race for the lead after this pit cycle. It's Long, it's Johnson, and Taylor Stout in there for good measure, trying to get his lap back.
Taylor Stout really trying to get around as quickly as possible, putting on a stellar drive during this run as he continues on his way here, but is now stuck behind Byron Johnson, who's not giving an inch just yet. Ooh, shuts the door on him once again.
Not giving an inch, maybe not even giving a centimeter there, because he absolutely shut the door on Taylor Stout there. Brett Pancari from second has elected to end his stint early. He's not going to commit to the full fuel window. He is going to come down pit road this time. Stout and Johnson side by side. I'm sure Byron Johnson's going to be pretty frustrated right now because his race leader's teammate, who's a lap down, is currently preventing him from fighting with the race leader, but Taylor Stout has every right to try and get his lap back. He's got every right to try and make that position back. He's just making Byron Johnson's life quite difficult right now.
He certainly is, and it's really getting more chaotic as the run goes. Now Taylor Stout goes around the outside to get around Byron Johnson.
Johnson stays to the inside. If I'm Taylor Stout, I'm thinking back to a little bit earlier as Trent Dinkles around on the front straight, and James O'Brien says, "Thank you very much. I will take that." He's still going to go to the back of the field, but he's going to have the freshest tires of anybody. And that is if everybody doesn't decide to bring it down pit road this time. It's only been a 9-lap stint for Long and Johnson and everybody else. I don't know if that's long enough to take tires under the caution here, but we'll have to wait and see. First, let's see what happened to Trent Dinkle here. I was about to mention that Dinkle was having a great recovery drive after going a lap down, after getting a black flag. He was en route to finishing in the top 10 and being the lead private label team hype driver. That all came unraveled, though, with a little bit of argy-bargy and a little bit of clumsiness in the middle of the field.
How about that hard hit you saw right there for Trent Dinkle, and that will definitely put him out of contention of the race today.
Those are the worst hits that you can take, when it's like, I was already on the back foot, you put me a lap down, I was in trouble, I fought back, I was going to get a top 10 out of it, and then you get smashed in the head with a hammer again. Those are always the worst ones to take.
Yes, indeed. It is always the worst ones to take, indeed.
James O'Brien is going to be forced to bring it down pit road this time because he's not going to have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. But will he be followed in by Long, by Johnson, by anybody else on the lead lap? Here comes O'Brien, and Matthew Long peeks in. Was that a dummy or was that legitimate? That was legitimate. Long is in, Johnson's in, Hudson, Christian, Daniels, everybody on the lead lap is going to be in here. Looking back in the pack, is anybody going to decide to stay out here and go for a risky restart? Looks like the answer is no. There's still going to be about 16 or 14, 13 laps to go in this race, which is not the longest run in the world, but it's a decently long run. Nobody's going to take the risk and stay out, other than Brandon Walter, who's going to get a lap led here. I have to imagine that he's going to come down pit road again after this. That tends to be what he normally does. He likes to lead those laps. He likes to get those extra points. He doesn't actually restart with those older tires, though. James O'Brien does not win the race off pit road because Lou Christian and Byron Johnson, they both took 2 tires.
This is going to be exciting to see how this plays out for the 2-tire strategy, as Brandon Walter has showed quite a bit of speed during that middle stage of the run. We'll see what he can do in that 99.
If he does restart here from the lead, I'll be very surprised because he's on 8 lap older tires than the rest of the field. That's not the oldest, that's not the biggest gap in the world in tire life, but he's still going to get swallowed up. And I don't know. Every time we see a driver do this, they normally come down after. We'll have to see here. He's crawling through 3 and 4. He's going to get his extra point for leading a lap. He's going to peek to the inside of Taylor Stout here. Get my hopes up that he will come down pit road here. I can't imagine he'll stay out here. That's just too big of an age gap between the tire lives that he's just going to get swallowed up. But he's not coming down. He's showing every intention to restart from the lead here.
Really interesting how this will play out, and it's going to be exciting here. Probably exciting for us, chaotic for the racers, let's just say.
And Lou Christian is probably going to be the least happy driver right now because he has to figure out, how do we get by Brandon Walter? If he is going to be struggling on these older tires, all the drivers on that bottom lane might be in trouble. Byron Johnson, going to be a very, very happy driver up there on the high line. He might have the potential to sweep around and pick up all the pieces there. Tamamasi down on the apron. He's going to fall to the back of the field here. He's a lap down. He'll restart from the tail end of the field. He's probably going to be hoping for one more caution to get back on the lead lap. And it's entirely possible that caution does come. We still have time left in the race. Well, we could finish all 110 laps with a caution or even a green-white checker. Hopefully that doesn't come, though. Hopefully we do get a clean run to the end of this race. And it'll be led by Brandon Walter. You can see on the side of the ticker there, 20 spots up from his starting spot. Byron Johnson up 22 spots. Lou Christian up 5 spots. Matthew Long, the biggest mover, up 28 spots in the number 28 car. After being disallowed from qualifying, after causing a caution last week, he has absolutely made up for that absence of qualifying. And there's still a win on the table here. He was looking like he was going to fight with Byron Johnson for this win if the race stayed green. It didn't quite go that way. He still has a shot at it, though. But we navigate our way through turn 4 here. We crawl our way through turn 4 at pace speeds for hopefully the final time tonight. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off onto pit road. Brandon Walter, on 8 lap older tires than the rest of the field, takes control of the field and takes us to the green flag.
About this 3 wide for second as everyone tries to get around and heading off into turn 1 and 2, and it's already side by side. You see Christian on the bottom, Johnson in the middle, and James O'Brien on the outside lane as O'Brien can't get the momentum. Meanwhile, Brandon Walters quickly gets away for the race lead.
Brandon Walter gets a little bit of breathing room for the moment. How long will he have that, though? Turns 3 and 4 are going to be a big question here. Byron Johnson on completely fresh tires. Brandon Walter struggling a little bit on older tires, and you can see the pace difference. Byron Johnson absolutely sends it into turn 3, decimates the gap up to Brandon Walter. Now, where does he get the run? When can he get the run? He's going to be in the draft coming down the front straight here. He's going to peek to the outside. Walter's going to block the run to the outside. Johnson's going to send it into the inside here through 1 and 2. And there's no fight there. Brandon Walter cannot fight that back. Byron Johnson takes the lead.
Byron Johnson's going to hold on here and see what he can do as he works his way down the back straightaway. New race leader, Lou Christian, also in the mix for the fight.
Matthew Long's got to clear Brandon Walter here soon so he doesn't lose touch with Johnson and Christian. But this is an extremely interesting dynamic here because the lead driver has never won in the PRL. Luke Christian in second has never won in the PRL. Brandon Walter has. Matthew Long has. Clayton Ham has. There's a lot of opportunities here in the top 5 for first-time winners. Matthew Long, though, to the outside of Brandon Walter. He's going to be able to get by him with the momentum on the outside. Johnson and Christian suddenly have a Titan to fight with in Matthew Long.
Do everything they can here to try to battle on to the finish here as they set themselves up down the front straight or into turn 3 and 4 as now Walters is starting to fall back into the clutches of Clayton Ham.
Clayton Ham for YS Motorsports peeks to the outside of Brandon Walter for P4. If Clayton Ham can finish there, that would probably be his second best result in PRL Cup competition. Of course, he has a win. He won at Daytona in the season finale a couple of seasons ago. But Clayton Ham has had a phenomenal night so far at Michigan. He's up into P4. Chris Hudson is the next driver to take a bite out of Brandon Walter and get by him. Adam Zemke is going to join the fray, and Brandon's teammate James O'Brien should also be the next driver, who kind of makes Brandon Walter a little bit disappointed. He restarted from the lead. I think he was definitely hoping for an early caution on that restart to at least hemorrhage the bleeding a little bit, but no, he is falling like a rock.
He certainly is. That two-tire strategy was not going to work here as they work their way down into turn 1 and 2. He's trying to hold on into a top 10, but I think it's going to be not going to prevail for him this time.
Falls to P9 as Josh Daniels gets by. He's going to fall to P10, and Joe Hoggard next on the list. Stop, he's already dead. Brandon Walter down into P11. Waldo Walden's going to make it P12. You just look down to every single driver on the lead lap. They're all on fresher tires other than Taylor Stout. It was a risk for Brandon Walter. Does not look like it's paying off for him, and the fall continues. Up front, though, Luke Christian and Byron Johnson, they're basically separated the same as they've been. Luke Christian hasn't really been able to bring down that gap. There's been a little bit of a dirty bubble. And also remember that these two in the lead, they're only on 2 tires. They only took right side tires on that pit stop. Matthew Long took all 4. Is that going to help him at all?
It's going to be a long fight here, but I think it may be able to work out for him in the long run here. Even though it's only less than 10 laps to go, let's be honest here, it's still quite a bit of racing left that could possibly play out.
Off of turn 4, Byron Johnson just seems that little bit stronger right now. Luke Christian, he's staying within draft range. He's able to close the gaps, but through 1 and 2 and through 3 and 4, it is just Byron Johnson's race right now. Through 1 and 2 here, the laps are ticking down. Luke Christian needs to figure something out here, and it's a great run off of turn 2 for Christian. He's figured something out, but Byron Johnson's going to continue to go snake mode down the back straight to make sure he can't get too much help from the draft.
He's going to try to get a good run here as that 28 of Matthew Long is trying to poke and prod his way to a chance to get up into second place as Byron Johnson now clean air on his side. You're right on board with Luke Christians in second place.
World's shortest staircase and the world's shortest run, or the world's shortest gap between him and the lead. This is the first time I think Luke Christian has been completely and legitimately in the fight for a PRL win. And that's pressure that's going to ride on you. When you're fighting for your first win in a series, it's probably the most difficult situation you can be in. Once you get that first win on the board, once you're a driver like Abner Acosta or Richard Regan Jr. who has 30-plus wins, it's still a high-pressure situation at the head of the field, but it is so much more difficult when you're going for your first win, and it's about to get even more difficult for Luke Christian because here comes Matthew Long to the inside. Clayton Ham's going to make it 3 wide for second.
3 wide as they work their way down into turn 1 and 2. Here they come. You're right on board with Chris Hudson, a front row seat for all the action.
A front row seat if they come together as well. They were banging doors down the front straight, and somehow Clayton Ham managed to survive there in the middle of the 3 wide there. Chris Hudson with a full head of steam, though, is going to get blocked up by Luke Christian. Clayton Ham's going to try and make it side by side for second again into 3 and 4. Christian on the outside, Ham on the inside. Who's going to have the momentum off the corner? It looks like it's going to be dead even, and suddenly Byron Johnson has to decide, who do I give the draft to? Who do I want to help here? Who's going to be the best at slowing this pack down and letting me run away?
Certainly it's going to be interesting to see how this will play out here for these drivers as they try to sort themselves out down into turn 1 and 2. Hudson on the outside lane really getting a good run as he tries to get the momentum. Big checkup though as he watches out. Going to push Luke Christian down the back straightaway.
Chris Hudson is absolutely the fastest driver in this pack right now, I think, but he's just getting blocked up by the realities of physics. There's not enough room on this track for all the cars that he wants to pass. He is going to get to the outside of Clayton Ham here. He's going to get to the outside of Matthew Long, and again, he's going to get blocked up by Luke Christian on the high side as Long and Christian come together. Long saves it, even though he clips the grass down the front straight, and we're going to be 4 wide into turn 1.
Already 4 wide here as they make the run, coming to 5, or already past 5 laps to go here. It is going to kick it into overdrive. These drivers here battling.
Luke Christian again finds himself in the middle of the 3 wide. Chris Hudson again finds himself on the high line. Christian's trying to back out of this, I think just trying to survive as he finds himself in the middle of Adam Zemke and Josh Daniels. Chris Hudson as well, still clogging things up. I'm amazed that we haven't seen more collisions than we have here because this is absolute craziness. First, back to Stephen Hassett in 14th, separated by less than a second.
How about this here as these drivers try to jockey for position? Already intensifying action here as the field works their way around.
And suddenly it becomes a YS Motorsports 1-2, but Chris Hudson has finally cleared Matthew Long. We're 4 wide again down the back straight with Daniels, Harvey, O'Brien, and Zemke. And there it is, Harvey and Zemke in the wall. Hoggard takes a bite out of it. The caution's not going to come out. Everybody's still pointing in a straight line. But there was no way they were getting away with 4 wide into turn 3.
They were certainly not, and they're going to keep on going here as we watch on through the action here today at Michigan. It's been exciting racing all day long here as we watch the field. Now here comes Matthew Long to the outside of Chris Hudson.
What a run through 1 and 2 for Matthew Long. He's going to clear Hudson. He's going to clear Clayton Ham at that. And suddenly he's got 1 car ahead of him in Byron Johnson. It's going to be 2 laps to go at the line. It seems like every position in the top 10 has changed in the last couple of laps, except for Byron Johnson in the lead. But here comes Matthew Long to the outside.
Matthew Long with a big run. He's able to find his way through. Does he have the momentum? Johnson tries to throw the block. Can't work. Side draft to the race lead. 2 laps to go.
4 more miles at Michigan. Byron Johnson, he's loved the inside in 1 and 2, but he's always been a threat to the drivers to his outside through 1 and 2. Is Matthew Long going to be able to have the momentum here to clear him for the lead? He's got the momentum on the outside, but there's going to be a little bit of a side draft from Byron Johnson. He's going to continue to fight this until the dying moments. He's got a push from his teammate Clayton Ham into 3. Johnson takes the lead back, but we know Long is strong on the outside. Byron Johnson should lead at the line. He is going to be clear of Matthew Long, and we are going to take the white flag here. 2 more miles at Michigan. Can Byron Johnson get his first win? Can Matthew Long get his 6th?
Already seeing the chaos come into overdrive here. Final lap. Clayton Ham moves up to P3 as here comes Long to the outside of Johnson.
Matthew Long going the long way around. Is he going to be able to make the move? He's got the run. Johnson gives him a little bit of room, just enough. It's going to come down to these 2 as Long and Johnson are side by side into turn 3 on the final time. Can Byron Johnson do anything, or does Matthew Long just have the better tire life right now? Off the corner, Long, Johnson, Matthew Long holds on. He takes the lead in the last corner of the last lap of the race, and Matthew Long wins at Michigan.
What a race. They were beating and banging, trying to hold on for dear life, but for the Dirty South Racing, we finally see them come to play here this season.
Matthew Long and Taylor Stout absent for a couple of seasons last year, but they're back, and they're back in the best way possible. Let's take a replay of that finish here. Chris Hudson was kind of a little bit of a surprise there. He was making progress. He finished 2nd and only lost by about 0.06 of a second at the line. Watch him here down the back straight. He's going to get a little bit of a push from James O'Brien, and for just a couple of milliseconds, Chris Hudson thought he might have a shot here.
He certainly does, and watch the run that we see Chris Hudson get out of turn number 4. Johnson's now having to block 2 different lanes here, as there you see contact made, and there you see Matthew Long holding strong as they come across the line.
Clayton Ham, P4 in the dirt, and Byron Johnson is going to be immensely disappointed, I'm sure, but he's going to come back in the next couple of weeks with much more confidence on his shoulders after fighting with some of the best in the series and coming so close to getting his first win. But Matthew Long, back on top, returning to the PRL, his 6th win in the series, and he's getting some very well-deserved donuts.
Burning it down here in the Motor City. Once again, a great drive for the Ford manufacturer, which is one of the most dominant manufacturers to win here at this track.
As the smoke clears, there you see it, 60 thousandths of a second between Matthew Long and Chris Hudson at the line. Byron Johnson so close to getting his first win. He finishes in 3rd ahead of Clayton Ham. James O'Brien, 5th place for the 2nd week in a row after a race that was looking pretty tough for him. An alternate strategy paid off for him in P5. Josh Daniels, Jeff Chandler, Waldo Walden, Stephen Hassett, and Jay McDonald round out the top 10. P11 went to Lou Christian after, again, fighting so hard to try and get his first win. Did not go his way in the end, though. He finishes right ahead of Joe Hoggard. Abner Acosta, very disappointing day for him in P13 ahead of Pat Harvey. Matthew R.D. Campbell, after not being allowed to qualify, drives his way up to P15. Charles Sumner, a quiet P16. Then Ken Holland, Aaron Beaver, Richard Pruitt, and Scotty Johnson rounded out the top 20. Brandon Walter tried to stay out with a no tire change. Didn't work for him. He finishes P21 ahead of Roy Grande, Robert Besaw Jr., Taylor Stout, Richard Regan Jr., Brett Pancari, and Jordan Slater round out the lead lap drivers. Jose Medina, Robert Gamble, and Mark Kalin all ran into assorted amounts of trouble tonight. They both went one lap down each, or they all went one lap down each, rather. And then we get into the used car lot of drivers who ended up with heavy damage. Zemke and Amasi went 2 laps down. Mike Witt, Eric Papineau, Trent Dinkle, Johan Seminario, and Joao Guerra rounded out the 37-car field here tonight at Michigan. And oh my goodness, what a race it was. But we have our race winner here, Matthew Long, returning to the PRL this season, and you won it on the last lap. Talk us through that craziness in the last couple laps.
Man, I just looked down at my Apple Watch and my heart rate's like 135. That was probably some of the craziest racing I've ever had to finish a race. That was wild, man. It was a heck of a day, heck of a car. We had to start in the back with a penalty and worked our way up. Knew I had a good pace, and there's a couple cautions. I didn't want to see that one caution once we had the green flag pit stops. I thought we were in a good spot, and then it was just mayhem after that with the short runs. But man, it was just all out warfare those last 10 laps. I mean, we were all wheeling it, contact. That's NASCAR right there. That was awesome.
So we basically trade a high-speed 2-mile oval this week for the very, very tight, bumpy, difficult quarters of Rockingham next week. They're basically as different as 2 tracks can get. What are you thinking about Rockingham next week?
Rockingham's one of those tracks I've probably ran like 100 laps in my life just because it's not been on the schedule in a while. So I've got some practice to do this week. I will say I do like short tracks and tracks I got to break at and worn out tracks. So hopefully it suits me, but it's a big unknown for me, to be honest.
Well, it's win number 6 for you in the PRL. You certainly put on a show for us. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to thank everyone at Dirty South Racing. Bobby Anderson helped put together a hell of a set this week. Taylor Stout, Rich Regan, Chris James, all those guys. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anyone. And then, you guys for putting on a great show. PRL for hosting a great league. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure indeed. Matthew Long, your victor tonight. Very, very happy after all that. And we got a driver who's probably pretty happy as well. Not as happy as Matthew Long, but Chris Hudson, second place is with Taylor Burris.
Here with Chris Hudson. Chris, you had a front row seat to all the chaos happening as you were battling door to door with Byron Johnson for the second place and for the race win. What was that needed push that you needed to try to get around Matthew for the race win?
Yeah, it was pure chaos there at the end. I think, we were all just driving for our lives there. I think most of us had our setups kind of more long run based. So for it to, lost you there. But our setups were really set up for the long run. But then, when that short run happened there at the end, I think we were all just kind of struggling. So it was, 3 wide. All over the place, bumping off of each other. It's just doesn't get any better than that, though.
Certainly does not indeed here. Of course, we get ready for the next couple of weeks now. We are in a bit of the grind for this championship now as we have no more breaks. What now do we feel like that momentum is going to do to help you to possibly try to take home a checkered flag this coming season?
Yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to it. I like getting back into a groove. I feel good about the way our team is running right now. Josh and myself and Jose. I think we, especially shout out to Josh. He puts a lot of work in during the week and kind of working on our setups and just trying to get us ready. So yeah, it's a grind. But it's so much fun. I like getting in that groove, and I think hopefully we can carry some momentum through the season and finish well.
Before we let you go, Chris, anyone you'd like to say thank you to or give a shout out to?
Yeah. Huge shout out again, Josh and Jose with Love Racing. We've been together for a couple seasons now. It's big shout out to the team there. Hi to my mom and dad as always. And then thank you to you guys. You guys do an awesome job with the broadcast. It's always a lot of fun to watch. And of course, PRL. This league is awesome. The competition is fierce and everybody's fast and it's so much fun. It's the highlight of my week. Thanks to everybody.
Before you go, Chris, remind me what mom and dad's names are. I remember they both start with K.
Yeah, that's right. That's Ken and Karen. So yeah.
Ken and Karen, of course. Shout out Ken and Karen and Chris, all the members of the K family. Congrats on the win, Chris or the second place rather. Second place tonight, Chris Hudson. And we have a driver coming into us as well, who finished third in this race tonight. Byron Johnson, fighting for your first win until the dying moments of the race. Talk us through the absolute hornet's nest that was those last couple of laps trying to fight for your first win.
Yeah, that was definitely the craziest race I think I've been in iRacing, and I took 2 tires on that last stop and it really paid off, but it just right there at that last lap, they all came back to me and I just couldn't do much there at the end.
So how much are you going to take from this tonight? Because of course, I'm sure there's heavy disappointment. You came so close to your first win, but you proved that you could fight with some of the best here in this series. There's some similar tracks coming up later this season, like Auto Club. How are you going to take this in the final 8 rounds of the season?
Yeah, definitely disappointed I didn't get the win there, especially leading those last few laps, but it's crazy racing in this league, honestly. Everybody's so good in this league. There's nobody who's bad or anything, and everybody's really tight racing, and hopefully we can keep running up here in the top 5 and just keep going.
And maybe there's an inter Johnson rivalry between you and Scotty Johnson. You were the top Johnson tonight, P3 tonight. I guess before we let you go, we know everybody from Yellow Stripe Motorsports. They're always watching. They're always lurking. You got to give them all thanks because they'll find you if you don't thank them all.
Yeah, it's shout out to everybody at the team and us running practice and trying to get the setups figured out. And big shout out to RPM Transmissions out of Anderson, Indiana for helping us enter leagues like this and just supporting us as a whole.
Byron Johnson, your third place finisher tonight, going to try and take this momentum into the rest of the season. And speaking of YS Motorsports, we've got his YS Motorsports teammate, Clayton Ham, P4 tonight, another driver in that cloud of drivers, and now he's in the cloud of Taylor Burris.
Here with Clayton Ham. Clayton, a little bit of an up and down night, but you were able to come out with a strong top 5 finish. Walk us through the action that you had to deal with tonight.
Oh my God. I mean, the first like 10 laps was just chaos. I was just trying to hold on to the tires. I mean, our setup's been great around the outside, and I think I could push forward a little bit like Craig, like Byron Johnson did, and Johan as well. But I just kept staying behind and trying to save my tires. Eventually, after that last caution, I just decided, screw it, I'm just going to hang it around the outside and see what I can do. And I guess it worked out for me. But at the start of the race, it just felt like a huge accordion, and I couldn't quite get to where I needed to be.
Now, walk us through some of the technical difficulties when you utilized that outside lane, because we saw some drivers make it work and then some just struggled with it. What were you able to do to make sure that you were able to stay out on the top side?
I think at the end of the race, it just came down to the tires. I think our setup. We just had the grip to be able to hang it out there better than other guys could. Matthew obviously took 4 tires. Myself, I took 2. So did Byron, but it worked out for him. But I'm definitely glad with where Byron and I finished tonight. He deserved that P3.
Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Thank you to Ethan from YS Motorsports for helping me set this team up, and RPM Transmissions, Rodney. Without them, some of this stuff with our recent releases wouldn't be possible. So I'm definitely thankful for them. I'm thankful for a great race and some good teammates.
Well, that's the strong run that we saw from Clayton Ham in that YS Motorsports black Toyota. As we continue on with some of our drivers here today, and I gotta say, the next driver joining us is going to be one exciting to talk to, James O'Brien. He is with Joey Teppen.
Always exciting to talk to. Indeed, James O'Brien was absolutely an up and down day for you, but the caution gods shine down on you after that alternate strategy choice, and I have to imagine you're pretty happy with holding a top 5 at the end of today.
Yeah, I didn't deserve it. The car was absolutely terrible. I don't know what we did wrong, but I deserved like 20th, 25th maybe. But at the end, it was just strategy. I was kind of threw darts at the board and hoped something stick, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna try to stretch this out all the way to the end. That yellow run or that green flag run, I was like, I got nothing else to lose. I'm gonna be in the back anyways, and thankfully a yellow came out, and I made some bad adjustments on pit road. On that last yellow, the car did not fire off at the beginning. Not saying Matt wasn't faster than me, but I had the best position on fresh tires, and for some reason I just felt like a rock. But thankfully, 5th, I'll take it. I am so tired.
I can only imagine. But you and Chris Hudson, the only 2 drivers to finish in the top 5 in both races so far this season. Of course, you're coming off the win in the final round of last season. You've got to be feeling pretty good about the momentum here. I know it's kind of a weird season. There's 8 rounds of real-life NASCAR tracks and some wild cards, but how are you feeling about the rest of the season?
Before we went to fixed, I think I mentioned I like open sets more. I didn't really have a lot of time to help this week with the set. Trent Dinkle did a lot of the work, and I'm super happy he did, even though we kind of missed still. I'm feeling good. I love Michigan. This is one of my favorite tracks. I've won here a lot and really wanted to try to do it again. This season, I'm not too excited for. Not a big fan of a lot of the tracks that are coming up, but once the real thing starts, I'm hoping that we can kind of fire up and kind of have that familiarity of the ones that we see all the time every week.
All right, well, we'll see you at a little bit of an unfamiliar track next week at Rockingham, and we'll see if you can keep the top 5 streak up.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for everybody watching. Hopefully they enjoyed that finish.
I can guarantee you, if they enjoyed it as much as we did, they absolutely enjoyed that finish. James O'Brien, P5 here tonight. You know, maybe didn't deserve it on pace like he said, but it's all about the strategy. It's all about where you end up at the end of the race. James O'Brien picks up the pieces, but Taylor Burris, I'm picking up the pieces of my vocal cords after that finish, because that was pretty insane. And we've got an insane run here. Like I said, Rockingham coming up next week, January 15th. Very, very tough track. As if that wasn't tough enough, we go to Darlington after that, then the old scan of Atlanta, then the short track at Iowa, then our one road course race of the season at the Daytona Road Course, then the full track at Daytona. We'll get a restrictor plate race in. Auto Club, as close to Michigan as you can get in the penultimate round of the season, and the season finale at Las Vegas. A very, very diverse schedule, as all of these NASCAR series are this season. It's going to reward consistency above anything.
Notice those next 4 races: Rockingham, Darlington, Atlanta, and Iowa. 4 tracks that chew up tires. So tires management will be the key to victory when it comes to these next 4 races. Whoever can save the best with their tires can come home with some victories here in the next season and propel them up in the championship, or help them maintain their championship position.
Well, after an absolutely insane race tonight at Michigan, Matthew Long comes home as the happiest driver in the PRL world. But that is about it from us here tonight at RaceSpotTV. We hope you enjoyed that race as much as we did. We hope you enjoyed that race as much as Matthew Long did. And now it's time to remind you that this is not the only night of PRL competition this week. Tomorrow night, on Mondays, we've got GR86s and GT4s. On Tuesdays, there's GT3 doubleheaders. On Wednesdays, there's the NASCAR Truck Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And on Thursdays, there's the IRO4s and the F3 Series. 5 days of PRL competition every single week here on RaceSpotTV. We hope you'll join us for any or all of them, and we hope you'll be with us here next Sunday for more PRL NASCAR Cup Series competition from Rockingham Speedway. But from me, from Taylor Burris, from our producer Hugo Luis, we thank you for tuning in tonight. Until we see you next time, so long.